coming this summer. 2 matchbooks who decide that they have free will and they're not going to do what they're expected to do. In this case, which originally was to hold the window up because it broke and it's raining, but it's working. But they decided that they're going to carve their own path.
Let's get out of here. Look, Emerald City is closer and prettier than ever. Out of the woods, you're out of the dark, you're out of the night. Step into the sun, step into the light. Keep straight ahead for the most glorious place on the face of the earth or the sky. Hold on to your breath, hold on to your heart, hold on to your hope. March up to the gate and bid it open.
Not for nothing, it appears as though the Thelema law that is basically the antithesis of, you know, the theistic order, made famous by Crowley, who considered himself the most evil man in the world, who also said he was possessed by a demon who looked just like a gray alien way before, whose name was Lamb. Anyway, this is also appears to have been Mandela affected to do what thou wilt instead of do as thou wilt. But anyway, that's not the point of this actually. This was like the last thing I put in this video. I literally just discovered it, but you do notice that when you type in do as, the first thing that comes up is do as thou wilt instead of do what thou wilt. Just a little primer as I get into this. I'm not going to be very robust in the fear department anymore. So I'm going to show you real quick something that I've been sitting on for a year because I felt the need, unfortunately, which I don't anymore, to try to shed some sort of a, here's what I actually think this means. And I've started to just zoom out to the point of, wait, this is, oh, yeah, don't do that. That's what it wants. So I'm going to show you, it is a real one. You need good headphones to hear it, and it does have major implications if you want to go down that rabbit hole, but I've had this video for a year because it's just too hairy. And there's too many directions that you could go with it, and I'm not looking for any truth in this except for the reminder, which I'll talk to you about later. Here we go.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz. The wonderful Wizard of Oz. The wonderful Wizard of Oz. The wonderful Wizard of Oz.
So the significance of this is that instead of on like an on-off switch, on, an, means heaven to Sumerian, Babylonian, Akkadian. On/Anu was the head of the gods to them and doesn't have a major part in their pantheon as much as, well, he's like the triad of like Anu, Enki, and Enlil. But it being the Wizard of Heaven was what made me be like, oh, I have to figure this out. So it's come under, at least my vantage point of being more likely than the alternative, that this is part of a, you know, a world manipulation situation. And it's only been within the last 100 years, less than that, 50 to 75, where we've got all the nations working together with science, and so I'm not saying specifically like, okay, here, I'm not even gonna try to do that anymore about the actual, this is what's happening. I've been trying to do that, understand the hows and the who's, but this, you're not gonna find it. You're not, even if you do, it's gonna be coded. And so, okay, so what's the alternative? Well, and I've experienced this myself, where it seems like, oh shit, like, so the false memory thing being, so here's the thing, like my last video was 30 eyes that have changed to I. Clearly indication that this place is being edited, because all the lyric websites still say eyes, another sloppy example of this effect. And you know, it just takes knowing how to look to be able to see what this truly is, you know. Like, even there's no memory issue here at all, you just weren't looking because music's usually in the background. My thing is that the alternative would be that they figured out how to manipulate the material world and hack it, so to speak, and then also retroactively update everybody else's memory. Or no, you know what? Let's just take the memory thing out completely and realize that all of the ones that are the most promoted were extremely subtle and ambiguous to begin with, and are definitely not real, all of them. They're total propaganda subversion to get this to be something which it is not. And that's why you keep seeing so much promoted really scary stuff, being that you've switched dimensions and that people hear different versions, or that maybe there's some asshole in place of you in the place that you used to be from. It's not true. I promise it's not true. I guess I shouldn't promise that, but I mean, I know for a fact that the people around me are different versions, and people could argue with me all they want, but you gotta remember, like, confirmation bias, right? Like, the age of information now has created you are what you eat when it comes to what you ingest, and it was a traumatic thing for me to think for about a week that I had switched dimensions, because that's what everybody has been promoting, and it's not people's faults. There's a compartmentalization thing here, and it's like, we got to remember that objective reality does still exist. Sure, there's a couple pieces of that pie that are subjective, right? We don't know, and it could have always been that way, but for the most part, the technology does exist, and when you have 10 years of research for New World Order and what it's been culminating to, I now have reached this vantage point officially of not letting it like mess me up, man, because they need people to be afraid, and so this could be a big setup for you know, getting people to admit their weakness, because when we're scared by, that's exactly with what, you know, the situation with dark spirits and entities and all that stuff, is that fear straight up is a gateway, right? So the last thing I want people to do is watch my videos and feel afraid at the end. In fact, the opposite should be happening with everybody who sees this, because it's, yes, okay, it could be coming from them as a way to just like fake a second coming of Christ or something like that, but they're nerds. And it's also like they're not as good at it as they want you to believe, even with this, if this is coming from them, because you can find residues. Therefore, that right there indicates, well, what are you saying? How is there residue if we just hop dimensions? You know what I mean? Then you got people, you know, understand that, like, this is what happened with Sitchin, with the Sumerian stuff, is that it Anunnaki doesn't even mean those from heaven who came down, like in the whole spaceship things. Like, they have totally subverted that. It actually means seed of the divine prince. So, you know, do with that as you will, but it's like, who runs this place actually? Like, I'm pretty sure that, you know, Lucifer is the king of the era. I mean, I don't know. Eric von Däniken, you know, the book was originally came out with a question mark, Chariots of the Gods, and the question mark subsequently went away as time went on, and that's what happened with the establishment with Einstein. His relativity aspect, he wasn't even as sure of it, and then, you know, 1919 rolls around, there's an eclipse, and somebody sees a star that they shouldn't see, so they run with it. That's exactly what the Yanni Laurel thing was too. It's like this confirmation bias to show, no, our work's legitimate here. Yeah, you know, and okay, great. Now they seem to be actually getting to a place of, but even within these communities, there's still division. The quantum, like, you know, nobody agrees on anything, because there's just a limit for human beings, you know, and it's like, what, are we going to go down this rabbit hole and just waste our life with bullshit? Okay, yes, this shows, you know, major strides in what's capable, but it's not God doing this, you know. There's so much facade going on both ends of the spectrum. The black and the white are both two sides of the same. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about the whole black and white symbolism of, you know, the checkerboard floor, all that stuff, or the chessboard floor, and like the order and chaos situation. It's just like what they do. The red and the blue, you know, the same thing. And like, I remember when the Democrats were red and the Republicans were blue. It still blows me away that they're not. But it's like, it's just all big, and they take themselves so seriously. By taking it too seriously, you make yourself vulnerable, and that goes with anything. And I'm not saying don't respect stuff that requires respect, but critically think about things. Do you really think that what you're told about the Mandela effect is actually the case? I mean, the whole deal is that we've been given a lie to begin with about the material nature of the world being everything through the evolutionary paradigm complex, and, you know, people are going to get triggered to that too, but there's a pseudo-ness to all of this, and it comes down to consciousness being the most important thing, really. Like, not the tree of life, wisdom kind. I'm talking about just like your heart, you know. So taking something, so what it is it's the same old problem solution situation, what they've been doing forever, you know. And we can't let it get to the point where it eats us up. Because things just run in circles and parallels like an Ouroboros. You know, that's what they do. And what happens sometimes when a snake starts eating its own tail, it just turns into a hockey puck. You know, it kills itself. You know, and the funny thing is, again, how seriously they take this stuff. You know, so what it is that they've given us this materialistic only paradigm, and now that there's something which we think goes against that, little do we know it's actually coming from them again, and they're going to bring us into a different paradigm of an ideological delusion. I mean, mostly we don't even, it comes from us thinking how scared we are about death, honestly. And when we can laugh about death, and especially to the point where it becomes a new religion that is absurdist talking. Do you know that L. Ron Hubbard and Crowley had a bet who could make the most successful religion? Honestly, it's still on the table because people just don't even realize that it's a religion to believe that do as thou will and that there's no purposes, which is Crowley. That's as much a religion as a Christian or Jew or Muslim. Like, I'm not promoting nihilism actually now that I think about it by saying like, screw it, doesn't matter how you live. I'm actually saying the opposite of that, do as thou wilt. Because there's so much corniness in how much the enemy here just, because they can't create anything, they just have to pervert what's already there. I mean, that's when people say that if you gave a demon a blank piece of paper, they can't fucking actually draw anything from scratch. All they can do is manipulate something that's already there, which then brings me back to thinking that this is dark, and that, part of the whole thing of them trying to do what the Bible says they're doing, which is make this, just be what God is actually supposed to be. But it's funny that they think it's going to succeed. I've always thought that was funny. So I'm not saying this is all within the sense of not losing motivation to live a life which is in favor of the Creator, whatever he or they may be. But the name of it is something which I think is a waste of time. Just like, unless you're trying to identify who the clowns are, right? Of course, that's important. Like, luckily, the word Lucifer has never been associated with Jesus popularly. But like, the idea of being saved from this authority structure, we gotta, like, I'm talking about the snake being the savior complex. That's so funny. It's so funny. It's like the most Stockholm syndrome you could ever think of. So I don't give a shit what this is trying to say, the Wizard of On, because it's too ambiguous. Because the wizard in that movie is a dingus. He doesn't do anything for them. He's just a burden. And yes, of course, oh great, the Theosophists, that was their plan to try to subvert people to make them think that they're God, and like, yeah, okay, I understand that. But the people that don't, they're not gonna take me to tell them that that's exactly what the New World Order plan is to usher in some sort of freaking further control structure by making people think that they're gods and all that shit. It's like, when you know how much effort and money is put in to deceive you, then you start to be like, well, why would I get further down a rabbit hole which was set up for me anyway as a trap? Like, all right, so who is it that they're censoring? What information is it that's censoring? And it's the kind of stuff which is non-self-oriented, to be honest with you, completely. It's a very, like, people are like, wait, set up self. I'm not talking to you if you're listening to me, because you won't find this video. You know what I'm talking about. If you're a truth junkie like me, who really doesn't matter what the truth is, because who am I to determine that? I didn't create this place. You understand that those programming the non-sentient AI as being able to understand data immediately. Like, as soon as I upload a video, it already has like a view or two. When it's still private, it's because it's probably the system analyzing it to see where it fits in with stuff, And if I really wanted to be clever, and maybe I'll get better at it down the line, is like sandwich this into between bullshit. Like, and it seems like that's how the real truth has been like laid out for us. I mean, that's what Jesus did. He like put his stuff in parables, which is fiction, and fiction is got more truth in it to me than nonfiction. It's one of the reversal elements of the truth of this world. I mean, I'm not talking about like inverting things like Crowley said either, because the do as thou wilt thing is, and people probably are gonna, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, when you don't define the rules, who are you to say if they exist or not? Look at man, look at your traditional rules and nonsense. I'm not talking about the nonsense ones. I'm talking about being a decent human being thing. So mine had been, I just realized, I wasn't being a decent human being and taking care of the things I need to take care of in this place, because I was being a little bit too wrapped up in this. I had about 150 projects. Well, I deleted accidentally about 75 of them, and what was weird is that I had a big relief. And you've only seen, I don't know how many videos. It's because it's too much of this like spiral of chaos, too much to unknown. The real truth is simple, you know, and it's just like this place is run by fuckers. They're nerds. So like, learn how to just grow a good heart, and you know, learn what real truth is. That's why a lot of times when something has a lot of views, it's no good, or it's just a part of the system of deception. All right, so I hope this doesn't get a lot of views. Good night.